Okay, so I'm doing this walk and talk. Well, basically, I'm just gonna walk and talk about things that are on my mind. Kind of like therapy, if you will. So, one thing I wanted to talk about, I've been reading this spiritual, metaphysical interpretation of the Bible, and it is very interesting. But one thing I gathered, and I was just thinking this today, people always talk about the devil, and the Hermetic principle says that as above, so below. So that means that I can kind of look at experiences I have as an individual and somewhat imply that those experiences apply to everyone, right? To the universe as a whole. So one thing I noticed is that we rarely, and by we I mean me, all of us, rarely appreciate good things until and unless bad things happen, right? You go on a vacation, it's a great vacation. The best, you have a ball. You get back, you know how much fun you had. You remember a few of the issues, but it was a good time. Then you go on another vacation and it's horrible or boring or expensive or just something way worse than the first one. And so you're like, shit, I thought that first one was okay, but now I realize that was the bomb vacation because now you have something bad to compare it to. So as humans, God created us to have dominion over the earth, to kind of be gods over the earth. But we have that lower law of polarity to hold us back, right? So that law of polarity tells us we have to have an opposite to God. There is no opposite to God. God is everything. All. God is all. I am that I am. Right? So there is no opposite. Good is just good. And that's that. Everything is good. But we can't accept that. We need an opposite. A polar opposite. We need something on the other end of that. So we have the devil. And the devil is a man-made construct. It's something that we created so that we could truly appreciate the goodness of God, because we have to have that countering force, that equal and opposite reaction, if you will. Whereas in reality, it is something we create for ourselves. So when we are talking about the devil made me do it, or the devil gonna get you, or the devil's trying, nah, it's just an absence of God. It's not a devil. It's just the absence of God. The way you undo that influence is how? By the presence of God. The opposite. So it's not that the opposite of God is the devil. The opposite of God is the absence of God. Not including God in your things. So that means that the devil, so to speak, can only exist for humans, because we are the only ones that need that opposite, need that opposition in order to appreciate the good. So we have to have a bad. So those are just some walk and talk thoughts that I've had today. Whew. I'm only about a quarter of a mile in, so I still got a ways. But that was pretty profound, because I'm just thinking I was the way I got to thinking is honestly, it's because I'm having a hard time with parenting, man. My daughters, they're just hard. They're very smart, very perceptive, snarky, somewhat mean, and I don't know, I'm having a rough time. And I think about them with, hi, hey buddy. And I just think about how easy a time it was raising my son. My God, he was so damn easy. He was so incredibly easy. But I didn't appreciate it. I didn't realize just how easy he was until I was done raising him, and now I got these hard-ass little girls. And I'm like, man, if I had known it would be this hard, I would have appreciated easy a lot more. So I got to thinking, like, why did I need bad to come along? Not bad, but hard to come along in order to appreciate easy. That's that law of polarity, that lower law. We don't see everything in its own experience, in its own right. No, we see things relative to everything else. So we have to have poles, opposite ends, so that we can fit everything into that. Something is only pretty when it's next to something ugly, right? Something is only big when it's next to something small. It's all relative. So our descriptors as humans are human descriptors. They're relative. They're all subject to lower laws. God doesn't operate in our lower laws. He doesn't care about our lower laws. Those are things that are for the manifested only. So the way to get past that is to basically go up to the higher laws, get out of the lower laws, realize that we don't have to be governed by those lower laws. They're still here. They're still acknowledgeable, but we don't have to incorporate them into our reality in our life. Start thinking in terms of absolutes instead of relativities. And the way to do that is to see every moment as its own moment, right? No moment should be compared to another, because then you can't have a best trip and a worst trip. It's just a trip. And each trip had its own merits. Each trip had its own demerits, but they're not being compared to each other. So I can't compare, one parenting experience to another, because if I look at them as how they operate in the absolute term in their own right, there's nothing to compare it to. It's just its own experience with good and bad things to go along with that experience. So one way, I guess, to overcome that and to learn to appreciate the good when it's happening, and to see the good and the bad, right? Because there is no bad. And once you accept there is no bad, then it's just what of the situation is good. It may be less good things in that situation than in another situation, but ultimately that's what should determine the value of an experience, not comparing it to another experience and its value. So that's my lesson for today. Live in the moment. Take everything as is right then and there. Do not add any comparative value to it, relative value. And that's that. That's my walk and talk.